Welcome to a brand new Corn Nation Overreaction, not live on YouTube, Facebook, or X this time. Nebraska had a bye week, and truth be told, it took a little bit of salesmanship on my part just to talk these guys into doing the show. So we appreciate the grace, your forgiveness to bring this one to you pre-recorded. We'll kick it out to you just as quick as we can here. But let me introduce the team. Of course, you know me. Greg Mahachko. I mean, you know everybody here. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend, longtime podcast buddy, and fellow Husker fan, Hoss Roy. Hoss, good evening, sir.
Evening, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing well. And then center stage, bottom row. That doesn't work out well. We've got he's not big game or every game. He's just Jake now. And that's not a demotion. It's just we've gotten used to him. Jake, how are you, sir?
Doing awesome, guys.
Excellent. You guys were, before we started rolling sound, you're talking about your gains and your lifts, and very proud of both of you. I just want you to know.
Thank you, Greg. Your support means the world to me.
I did a little weightlifting myself today. I was laying on my floor, and the chunkier twin, Robert, comes over and like dive bombs me. So I kind of deadlifted him off, did a few bench presses there, one hand on his chest, the other hand on his knees, and he liked that so much he came back for more, so I did that. And then did some 12-ounce curls earlier today as well while I was out grilling some pork steaks. So very, very pleased with my efforts.
Those are some of the most beneficial.
I don't know what that is. Can't read that label. Looks like garbage.
Better than the fancy shit you drink, Greg.
I got Yingling right behind me. So how dare you?
Yeah, but it's not some like Sierra Nevada triple brewed, double hopped IPA.
Tonight, just dihydrogen monoxide. You're welcome.
Same. Okay. Took the weekend off of adult beverages this weekend. So
Jake, I think we got the same cup too.
This is a Yeti. Is yours?
No, mine's not Yeti brand
Yeti. Those things are great too.
Probably Walmart. So it was a gift over 8 years ago, and it's still going strong. So, well, we mentioned that Nebraska did not have a game this weekend. They were on a bye, which means they didn't lose. And it also means that they didn't get any closer to bowl eligibility. Still sitting strong at 5-4. But I really wanted to get the guys together this week because while Nebraska may not have had a game, there was certainly plenty of news and some noise, we'll say, in Lincoln this week with the addition of a couple of longtime names to the game of college football coming in as, I believe, analysts. And I think we probably need to start with the more obvious one. That's Dana Holgorsen. Hoss, this is a name that over the years that we've been doing, podcasts here for Corn Nation, Five Heart Podcast comes to mind. That's the one we obviously did the longest. Whenever there was a coaching opening in Lincoln, Dana Holgorsen was a name that you continue to toss out there.
Yeah, I think I brought that one up in 2017 when I was kind of on the everyone but Frost train up until that hiring was just inevitable. But good offensive coach, Midwestern base, good ties in Texas. I know a lot of people are going to say that he's an air raid offensive guy, but I think with how that's proliferated through college football, I don't even know if you can really call what he does air raid anymore. It's just kind of, modern spread offense. I think like what he did at Houston, those numbers took a little bit of a dip from when he was at West Virginia, but at the same time, they were still probably those numbers would have been good for two of the best offenses that we've had at Nebraska in the past 15 years. So that's really nothing to scoff at either. In terms of what it's going to look like in the Big Ten, because there's not really a lot that he's going to do this year aside from being an observational role and a consultative approach to Satterfield. Satterfield's still going to call plays. Holgorsen's just going to be involved with the game plan aspect and another voice in Satterfield's ear during the game for play calling and sequencing. But I think moving forward, because I think there's a better than not chance that this is next year's offensive coordinator. I think his offense is going to really look a lot like what he did at West Virginia in 2015 and 2016. That's what it'll look like in the Big Ten Conference, where in those years, Wendell Smallwood was a 1,500-yard rusher in 2016, and Russell Shell added another like 760, 800 yards on the ground. So definitely more of a physical component to a quote-unquote air raid offense. But good vertical passing game, good RPO game, screens. He was at Oklahoma State in 2010. I know, Greg. I know. I said
screens. Wait, haven't we had enough screens?
Well, the thing is, Nebraska fans have this weird thing where like they want to outlaw play in perpetuity when it doesn't work for them, and they don't realize that it's a little bit more nuanced than that in terms of who's calling it, who's executing it. But again, look at Oklahoma State when he was their offensive coordinator in 2010 when we beat them 51-41. Big use of the diamond formation. That was he brought that into college football. Justin Blackman, Brandon Whedon, Kendall Hunter, those guys were kind of the triplets in that offense. So I think that we're getting somebody that knows offensive football at a high level. I'll be curious to see what he kind of puts his stamp on this offense this year without being a play caller for these last 3 games. But I think I love seeing the fresh perspective come in. And Phil Snow, that's the kind of like veteran defensive coordinator that I thought Frost should have hired when he took the job in 2018 at Nebraska. Somebody who's been there, done that, can lean on them as a resource. Rule had it right with hiring Phil Snow as kind of a guy on his staff to lean on when he was a young head coach as well. So I don't think Phil Snow is so much a replacement in waiting. I personally think Tony White will be back next year. And it's kind of funny, that defense is still top 25 in pretty much every category. It's just, we're playing some better offenses this year than we played last year. And we're being exposed for having some talent issues in the secondary, especially, Isaac Gifford, as we've mentioned on the show a few times.
Jake, when we talk about Dana Holgorsen coming in and maybe how he's going to, for lack of a better term, assist or maybe consult, helping some of those Marcus Satterfield deficiencies that we've talked about here on the show before, as far as not really having a game plan, just having a play sheet. And sometimes it's like B14, okay, screen, N36. Think about that. Whatever that. And maybe formulating a game plan that can only help. Even trying to install something, because all he's doing is I would imagine. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm regionally, so geographically more displaced, obviously, than you guys. But he can at least look at the play sheet and come up with a game plan based on the opposition. And feel like it's not going to be too much to try to install in the bye week and game week, Jake.
Yeah. So one thing, if you look at Holgorsen's coaching, statistics and coaching performance, going back to his days at Texas Tech, then at Houston, then Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Houston again, et cetera. As you run an air raid, I think that might kind of cause some some Husker fans to kind of go, whoa, I don't know if I want the air raid. Look at some of the rushing performances guys that he's coached. I mean, that 2010 Oklahoma State team had a prolific offense.
The wind blows just as hard down there.
Yeah, Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman, obviously an amazing – I know Brandon Whedon, people don't remember him as fondly because the way he did in the NFL, but in a vacuum, what he did in college was amazing. I know he was an older guy, whatever. Kendall Hunter, I believe, was over a 1,500-plus yard rusher. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much more, but I believe he rushed more than 1,500. Some of these Holgorsen offenses, there's multiple years in there from like 2006 up until now that he had many years he had more than guys that rushed more than 1,000 yards, and there was a lot of years he had a complimentary back that had at least 500. So, if you look at more recent Nebraska offenses with our rushing performances, other than that Anthony Grant, what was that, Haas? You probably 22 where he rushed for 900, close to 1,000.
Yeah, we haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 18.
I was going to say it was a Zigbo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zigbo's our last one. So one thing that I think Holgorsen does really well, and again, his impact probably will be somewhat limited toward the end of this season, but I think he does a good job of utilizing the skill set of the players that he's coaching. And I think you can see that through the player statistics of teams that he's coached. There's years where maybe he didn't have as good a personnel, and I don't know. I wasn't an avid Holgorsen watch. I'm just going off what I saw on stats. Maybe he didn't have as great of an offensive line that was, more of like bruisers and you can run the ball. Maybe he didn't run the ball as much and leaned more on the passing attack. And then some years he leaned heavier on the rushing attack. I don't think he's just one of these straight up, we're going to air it out 80% of the time, and that's just what we do. He doesn't do that. That's not his philosophy. And the other thing I wanted to say real quick is I don't feel like it's personal with the coordinators. And a part of me does, I don't feel bad for Sat because someone's got to be held accountable, but I do feel a little bit bad. This has got to be really hard for him. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's as hard for Tony White. It feels like Tony White, even though this defense has had some problems, the fan base seems to more embrace Tony White. I feel like they've really turned their back on Marcus Satterfield. I think he's in a tough spot. But the performance isn't there. So
I agree. I feel like Tony White earned himself the benefit of the doubt last year with that unit that he put together. And then to kind of piggyback off a few of your comments about Holgorsen, I think that a lot of Nebraska fans, if he is the offensive coordinator moving forward in 2025, I think a lot of Nebraska fans are going to be pretty happy with what a rushing attack out of the air raid looks like. You saw Oklahoma do it when they had Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine in the backfield together. The Baker Mayfield OU offense in 2017 might be the best offensive scheme ever put together in college football for what they did and how they generated yards. But I loved how Holgorsen has constantly adapted through the years. I know you guys probably remember that Orange Bowl against Clemson when Tavon Austin ran the jet sweep about 1,000 times and they scored 70 points on Clemson. He knew Holgorsen knew they didn't have the speed to get downfield on Clemson against their DBs. So they ran jet sweep and, really just were able to find ways to, outflank them on the perimeter, put speed in space, use pre-snap motion. And then when he had, Will Grier at quarterback in 2018, they were much more of a kind of a traditional air raid passing game. They had David Sills, the fourth at receiver, former quarterback, who I could see Heinrich Harburg playing that role in this offense, because Raiola is probably the most similar to like a Will Grier, in terms of what Holgorsen's had in the past. People forget Will Grier was in the Heisman conversation in November in 2018. He was a phenomenal player. Got kicked out of Florida for some PED use when he tested positive in 2015. But there's always this adjustment that Holgorsen uses year to year, so the offense never quite looks 100% the same. And for this year, I think that Satterfield doesn't so much struggle with game plans, even though he doesn't run an offensive system like we've talked about. He's a play caller. He's not, an offensive coordinator in terms of preparation. But the game plan is pretty apparent. They're trying to attack this area, trying to be a vertical passing game, with an inside running game. But I think where he really struggles is his play sequencing in game. The in-game play calling aspect, especially when we get into the red zone or really when we cross into a team's 40-yard line on the plus 40. That's where the breakdown happens. So I'm really hopeful that we can see a little bit of progress, that Holgorsen's had an effect on Satterfield, on the offense against USC.
You mentioned some big-time names, that Holgorsen has coached over the years from Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Houston. Is this addition? I mean, I know obviously they made this announcement. By the time most people are watching this or listening to this, it's been almost a week. Is it? I don't want to say too little, too late, but can they make an impact in the next 3 games to where we can get that elusive 6th victory? We can get to I'm going to borrow one of your favorites, Haas. We can get to our first bowl game since the Obama administration. Like, can it be done this season?
I think personally, that if you take what's transpired in college football since the last time we spoke, right after the UCLA game, and look at it objectively and not through the lens of being a fan, our performance against UCLA was inexcusable, and it's going to end up costing some people their jobs on the offensive side of the football at Nebraska. But then you look at what UCLA just did to Iowa back on Friday night. And so, like, you have to feel not – like, you still feel bad about our performance against UCLA, but not quite as bad. I don't think that we're as far off as it felt immediately right after the UCLA game. You know, you're 5-4. You got 3 games to go. You got housed by an Indiana team that does look legit. I firmly believe they're legit.
They're top 5 now, I believe, right? That was earlier this evening. I think maybe it was I didn't mean to cut you off, but the playoff rankings or something.
I thought playoff rankings came out on Tuesday, so I haven't paid any attention.
Let's see here.
But as I was saying, you know, like, got housed by an Indiana team that's legit, and the wheels just came off in that game. You fought your ass off against Ohio State. Illinois is just a solid team. UCLA is getting up off the mat. It's one of those things where there's got to be a win there in the last 3. And I feel better about getting a win in the last 3 this year than I did last year getting a win in the last 3.
I want to just piggyback in real quick here, courtesy of ESPN.com. This was earlier this afternoon. Oregon still number 1, Ohio State number 2, Texas number 3, then Penn State and Indiana. So
is that the
oddly enough, yes. So Oregon, the overwhelming, I don't want to say undisputed, but the unanimous first place vote getters at 10-0. They're 10-0. Indiana 10-0. Ohio State, Texas, Penn State are all 8-1. But think about this: we're in a world, and I think with the conference realignment, I'm not trying to derail the conversation we're having here about Nebraska, but I think we all kind of saw or anticipated that the Big 2, Big 10, and SEC would dominate the rankings. But I don't know if anybody had on their 2024 bingo card that the Big 10, 9 weeks into the season, 10 weeks, whatever it is, with bye weeks, would have 4 of the top 5 teams in the country.
I mean, I don't think I would have said that before the season, but it's not all that shocking when you look at the caliber of play within the conference.
But that Indiana would be one of those 5 is
more
astounding.
Like James Madison wearing Indiana uniforms.
That's fair.
Sorry, couldn't resist. No, they're legit. They are legit. Jake, were you going to add something?
No, I did. Yeah, I thought Indiana was going to be one of the bottom dwellers in the conference, and I don't want to say that I thought we were going to be having an Indiana-esque season this year. I didn't think we'd be 10-0 for sure, or 9-0, but I know that my preseason
it happens.
game by
we
game,
all get the grace.
predictions would have disagreed, but we're they're having a season kind of like what I thought we would have. I thought we would have a lot more success, and Kirk Cignetti, love him or hate him, he's a damn good ball coach. Great coach,
old school ball coach.
And this is a small thing, and I don't mean this any kind of way, but I don't, and people probably would disagree with me, but I get a little bit tired of Matt Rule taking the podium every week and calling every team we play a great team. Kurt Cignetti, and again, long term, who knows? Matt Rule could still be a college Hall of Fame coach. Cignetti could flare out. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But Matt Rule, I feel like we could be going up against Nebraska Wesleyan this week, and it'd be like, that's a great team we're going to face. Like, come on, dude.
Great pass rush.
Great pass rush. Those are elite. Come on, dude. I understand not insulting your opponent, but
you don't have to shower praise on them.
You don't have to shower praise like that, and it gets a little bit irritating for me to hear it. I just roll my eyes every time I hear it. Like, call great teams, and then just don't compliment the other teams. Northern Iowa's not a great team. They're not. UTEP, not a great team.
Jake, I want to ask you a question as we were talking so much about scheme, with the addition of Holgorsen and Phil Snow.
Yep.
What are some players on offense that you would like to maybe see Holgorsen, get involved, not from like a air raid offense standpoint, but, being a voice in Satterfield's ear on, hey, maybe we should do this for this guy,
Yeah, I think that we're underutilizing Ramir and Emmett, both the Johnson running backs for sure. I think there's some creative ways. And again, believe it or not, Barney, I feel like yes, he's touching the ball a lot, but I think there's some other creative ways we can get the ball in his hands. But the biggest one is Dylan Raiola. And now, if you look at the wide view, if you look at the film angle, like the coach's film, yes, he's misreading some coverages. But you got a guy who I think could be one of, if not the most raw, talented player Holgorsen has ever, coached. I know right now he's a consultant, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say coached. And I'm pretty excited to see what he can do with Dylan Raiola. I think, and this is just speculation based on what I've seen, I feel like Dylan right now is lacking a bit of confidence. I don't know what that's due to, and I don't know that for sure. And somebody could come back, oh, that's not it. That's fine. That's just what it looks like to me, with the happy feet in the pocket, not pulling the trigger when he sees an open man and then looking a different way, things he wasn't doing early in the season. Now, I do think the caliber of defenses we're playing is much higher, and that's part of it. But I think Holgorsen may help Dylan a lot gain some of that swagger and moxie back these last few games. And I think all 3 games are winnable.
Even that Iowa game in Iowa City.
Even that Iowa game.
It's gonna come down to 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Always does. No, I want to follow up, Jake, on what you said about Holgorsen working with Dylan. Essentially, that'll be, Holgorsen, Satterfield, Glenn, and then a private quarterback. So how many voices in his ear does Dylan Raiola need? Is it getting to be too many cooks in the kitchen?
I don't think so.
Okay.
At least I think, most guys are working with a private quarterbacks coach. You have your position coach as a quarterbacks coach. The offensive coordinator is a play caller, not coaching the finer points of technique and at the position. And then Holgorsen, it's more putting Satterfield in a position to put plays into the game plan that are going to be better for Dylan, or tweaking something in terms of how they go through his progressions on the field, calling a pass play in a different kind of situation than they normally would. So it's not like wholesale changes that they're, in his ear on, hey, keep your feet wide, on your drop, and then you got another coach saying, keep your feet narrow. I don't think it's anything like that.
I agree. I don't know if Satterfield's the kind of coach that's going to galvanize the offense and the guys really can rally and are really rallying to play, not for him, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Holgorsen, for all kind of how wild and crazy some of the stories about him are, and
he likes his beer.
He likes beer, and he likes to party. Not that for better or for worse, but I feel like the guy's a little bit more of a galvanizing figure. I feel like he can relate a little bit better to the players. And again, I've never played for Sat. Maybe Sat's great, but watching the Chasing 3, you see Tony White to the defense, and then you see Satterfield. How do you like them apples? I mean, what is this? Are we start cheering hip hip hooray after victories now? This ain't 1957, guys. Tony White, I feel like he really just, the guys want to play for him. I mean, I know listening to him talk, I'm ready to go out there and suit up.
I know Tony White's like listening to, a general command his troops.
I mean, that guy fires me up. And then, again, I don't mean this as an insult to Satterfield, but the guy doesn't really inspire intensity, at least to me. Maybe for some of the guys he does, but Holgorsen, I think, can inspire that.
And I think his track record speaks for itself too.
Yeah.
I made a comment this past Thursday night on the 5 Heart podcast that sparked intense debate. And I said, if you want to win this, it was the upcoming, Saturday, the next game against USC, you have to start Heinrich Haarberg.
I felt like that immediately after the USCLA game. But as time's gone on,
the USCLA game.
Yeah, I have NCAA paused up here. And so I'm playing Nebraska USC, and I looked up as I was saying that, and I was like, okay, USC, not UCLA. Got it flubbed up. But right after the UCLA game, I felt like, hey, we should start Harburg. But as time goes on, Dylan's still our best shot to win.
I just feel like what we saw, and I understand it's a limited sample size after Dylan made a courageous play running late in that UCLA game, and then got what I say looked like his liver absolutely shattered in that one hit. I just say, what? When Hyra came in, he was settled. He was decisive. He put the ball on a line, and when he wasn't throwing, he was running and getting positive yardage. And I just felt like it was nice to see for a change.
And those were all things that we talked about last week on the podcast. And I think a week to go by, I think kind of tempers kind of tend to go back down. But I'd be okay with Harburg for those reasons that you stated. But I think Dylan's probably still our best shot to win.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I again immediately following the game, I said it too, Haas. I mean, we hung out after that. I mean, I was saying, you want to roll with Dylan, sure, but if you also don't want to lose ball games in the process, I don't think that he's losing us ball games. Is he missing some throws? Yeah. Do I still think he's a generational talent? Yes. Do I think that you need to roll with him and let him learn from mistakes? Yeah. I think we're going to see some great plays from him still this season. And I bet, kind of a hot take, I bet that he's the reason we win one of these games. I bet he makes some outstanding plays, and he has a very unique ability that we saw flashes of earlier in the season where he can make the rabbit out of the hat play that as much as Harburg I love, and fans of the show should know how much I love Harburg, and I'm a big Harburg guy. I admit I was confident when he came in. I mean, he is not usually our quarterback's intimidating. I think that Harburg can be intimidating. He's big, strong, physical. He doesn't hesitate. He's got a big arm. But what I don't understand, I've said it for about 6 Sundays in a row now, why does Dylan not throw the ball with velocity? Why does he feather every pass in there? He can throw it on a line. He can rip that thing. He doesn't. And when Harburg came in and he made his first few throws that he was just ripping the ball, I'm like, wow, we haven't seen this since the early part of the season. I'd like to see Dylan step up and make some of those 12 to 18-yard passes. Goose Gossage that thing in there. Rear back and try to break some fingers.
Yep.
Don't actually break fingers.
Throw with anticipation, throw with velocity.
The rare Goose Gossage reference. Not too many people make that in 2024.
I stole it from a John Gruden QB camp video I watched last night where he was reviewing Brett Favre film. So
let me tell you what, man.
Yeah. He got that. Yeah, he was awesome. I mean, I know people don't like maybe some of the comments he made. That's fine. Just as a coach, I really liked him. And
well, it's a bye week. Do we want to take a stab in that? If not, I get it. I didn't prepare you guys for this. Do we want to do risers and fallers of the bye week as it relates to Nebraska football, or are we not?
I think, Haas, let's do it. I mean, let's just try to do it off the rip, man.
I was going to say I don't really know what to say minus the coaching news, So, I mean, we'll give it a shot. No guarantee to our listeners that it turns out well.
Do you have anybody, Greg?
I was going to say Troy Dannon.
Okay.
Somebody's got to authorize these additions.
Okay.
I don't have a fall.
Go ahead, I'm thinking.
I don't know if I want to give any players, in that kind of, because the UCLA performance overall was a dud, but there was really no glaring. Well, I don't really remember any glaring major issues aside from Raiola, throwing the pick six, misreading that, and I mean, I can give Matt Rule a ride. I mean, that's a gutsy move to bring in 2 consultants for those that are a fan of the movie Office Space, bringing in the Bobs. I know we've heard that thrown around since we got the news. You see, what is it? Dana Holgorsen sitting down with Sat. What exactly do you do here? I could give Matt Rule. I mean, that's a gutsy move that opens it. It's a hard conversation to have with both guys. Fallers, I guess. Sorry, Sat. You just continue to tumble. I hope you can pick yourself up, buddy. But this again, what is he? The 13th highest paid offensive coordinator in the country, and we're ranked outside of the top 100 in almost every offensive category, I think. So there's got to be accountability with any job. The three of us, the filthy animals that are going to watch this when we post it. At least most of us, we have jobs, and if you're deficient at your job, it's, just like everything else, it's a business, and someone's got to be held accountable. So hopefully Holgorsen can come in and maybe we can look at things a little bit different way as a coaching staff and make some things happen the next few weeks. So I guess Sat's my faller, Matt Rule my riser, making some changes and shaking things up.
I'm going to go with a player. I'm going to go with Ja'Cory Barney as a riser because he's about to get a shit ton of touches with some influence from Dana Holgorsen. In terms of fallers, I would say that Isaac Gifford, even in the bye week, I don't mean this is like any sort of disrespect, but when you look back at the performance last year, the disruptive plays he made along the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage from that rover position, and you look at what's happened this year, being in position to make plays, but being unable to finish plays. I think that's an issue that really is what's holding this defense back from being like last year. Last year on the back end, they were able to clean things up, and always keep a lid on things. But this year we're giving up a lot more, plays in the 10 to 15 yard range. So I would say that with a week that's gone by after the UCLA game, I would say that Gifford continues to be the faller, just because that's the one part of the defense that gives me apprehension about the last three games moving forward, especially now that Iowa's got a very mobile quarterback. The guy's fast as fuck. That could be very problematic.
I have a question. It's an X's and O's, and I apologize. I should know the answer. The rover position that Giff had last year, is that now John Bullock?
No, John Bullock's a middle linebacker.
Okay.
The rover position last year, he just was, we played more single high, and we just had him at the line of scrimmage. And then this year, we tried to play him a little bit deeper, and we're really struggling to find ways to, keep everything in front of us or run down plays and finish the play when you have a good pursuit angle.
So I don't want to start an argument, but I'm curious. Would you put the faller on him or on the guy who's drawing it up and telling him where to go?
He's there. He's not there. Finishing the play.
Okay. The only reason I said that was because you said last year he was playing up more towards the line and things like that. So I didn't know if it was a schematic thing or if it was a
no. And again, we're playing better offenses than we did last year. Last year, those offenses were pretty moribund. This year, we're playing a lot better offenses.
Yeah, Giff isn't blowing assignments. He's just not finishing. He's in position. He's just missing when he's there. So it's on him.
Okay. No, I appreciate the clarification. I do. Before we head out of here, we it's not a bye week anymore. It's officially game week, and we have predictions to get to. And as always, I'll give you the predictions that you guys made at the Yes Sir.
I want to make a point. Please One piece that we are missing from last year's defense, and I said this to Jake. I know you remember me saying this multiple times at the end of last year. Omar Brown.
Yeah.
Omar Brown, I'm amazed. I think he's on the Denver Broncos practice squad. But he made some plays last year in the back end of the secondary that showed that he was a Sunday guy. And that, especially early in the year before Deshaun Singleton got hurt against Michigan last year on a cheap shot, Omar Brown and Singleton holding down those safety spots allowed Gifford to play at the line of scrimmage more. And then also, I'll be honest, we missed Luke Reimer from last year as well. A guy that was just Mr. Reliable at the linebacker spot. So.
No, for sure. And I remember Reimer having Omar Brown. I'm not discounting the season he had. It's just I feel like he did it very quietly for whatever reason. I look back at last year and I almost feel disappointed in him because I know he had the interception. I want to say it was in the opening week against Minnesota. I'm like, yeah, he's going to be. And then he just went about business very quietly. So, but he did the job. He was reliable. And then in Reimer, of course, he for really the entirety of his career in Lincoln, you could always count on him to step up and make a stop. All right, so we'll start with you, Haas. You said at the beginning of the season, this will be a 34-28 game tilted to USC. Mm-hmm. Would you like to
I would
adjust or amend?
I would like to go Nebraska 21, USC 16.
I like it. Okay. Very nice, very nice. Jake, at the outset of the season, you said Nebraska would win this one by a score of 41-35. Now, we haven't had many games where we got to 41 points this season, so I didn't know if you wanted to make an adjustment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the offense would be a little bit more I would say potent, but I think competent is more the word I'm looking for here. I think we win our first game under Matt Rule where our defense gives up more than 14 points. I think we win this one 27-21.
Okay.
And I think we see a complete game out of the Huskers off the bye week. And I think we can hang our hat on it. We can win. We can make or reach bowl eligibility this season, and finally I can have a celebratory cigar instead of just a sad one.
Sad cigars are not fun.
There's nothing that I want more than to go into Iowa City with bowl eligibility already locked up.
Right. Yeah.
Like that, I just don't want to do the same thing as last year.
We can still win 9 games this year if you count a bowl game win.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there.
Get after it.
Here's the thing.
Prediction for Saturday.
Yeah.
What is my prediction?
Yeah.
I will get to it. It is.
That's not the question.
Well, I was going to build up to it.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So we went 0 for 3 between the byes, right? We came out of the bye. We looked absolutely atrocious against Indiana. We played well against Ohio State in a losing effort, and we didn't play well against UCLA and still had an opportunity to win late in the game. Our last win was back October 5th against Rutgers, and our last win where we looked halfway decent was September 28th against Purdue. That was a road game in West Lafayette. I am so excited for this game in the Coliseum on Saturday. Nebraska is going to win, and the score that I'm predicting, I like that you guys are realistic and in the 20s. I'm going to say 31-14.
Ooh, man, I hope so. I hope that I'm just back in that fourth quarter, drinking a few pops.
I'm just, it's a 3:00 Central Time kickoff, and Nebraska's due to show, really, I think for the first time since the Colorado game, what they're actually capable of. You know what I mean?
Wagons. Circle the wagons.
We have not looked like the same team in the first half of that Colorado game since the first half of that Colorado game. But you could say there's the argument that, we played a more complete game maybe against Ohio State, and certainly better competition in Columbus. But we were clicking, like, God dang, we were clicking in all facets of the game of football back when I had the honor and privilege of being there in Lincoln to see it. I'm not saying they did that just for me. if that was the case, then I'm sure some boosters would send me every game. But we all know that's unrealistic and not the truth. So I say we get it done. We get to bowl eligibility this Saturday in Los Angeles, and it'll be a much different ending than the last time Nebraska went and played USC in a regular season game, which was 2006, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
That's it, guys.
Dubs. Let's go get it done.
Yeah, we the easy part is talking about it, right? The difficult part is actually going out there, strapping up the helmets, and winning the damn football game. But we have confidence in this team, and we'll even say in this coaching staff. And let's see if we can get it done on Saturday. That'll do it for this episode, I think, of Corn Nation Overreaction for a bye week. But a bye week, unlike many others, because we actually had something to talk about here. So unless you guys have final thoughts, we'll just wrap things up.
Good.
Yeah, I've said my piece.
Excellent. Well, for my good friend, fellow Husker fan, a long-time broadcast buddy, Haas Reuter, and of course, the soon-to-be dad, Jake Horde. I'm Greg Mahochko. This is Corn Nation's Overreaction, and we remind each and every week, same thing. Go Big Red. Haas.
Circle the wagons.
Jake.
Go Big Red.
I like it. Simple, clean, effective.